Hi everyone, in this video I'm going to talk about how our first week with Thomas has gone. I'll be going over how breastfeeding has gone, how his sleeping has gone, how the visit from the public health nurse went, as well as what his temperament's been like. I'll also be going over how I've been doing the first week postpartum. So to start, I'm going to start off with breastfeeding. So Thomas was able to latch on right away, which surprised me because with all the research I have done and everything we had been taught about at prenatal classes, it was don't expect breastfeeding to be easy because you're both new to it. First time first time I'm breastfeeding, and it's the first time that they're trying to figure it out. So latching on can take some time. But I seem to have been blessed enough to have a son that seemed to figure it out right away. So right from the get-go, from the beginning, he was able to latch on and he fed really well. And this ended up so that we were able to actually be discharged early because he was feeding really well, and with the feeding really well, he was having lots of poops. So they want to have, like they say, on the first day they should have 1, second day 2, third day 3, so forth until about day 6, and then after that they should have about, I think they did 6 poops a day, or dirty diapers a day. So in that first day we had about 10 dirty diapers, and that is because when you first have your baby, you don't have milk right away. Your milk doesn't come in right away. You have colostrum to start with. And it actually acts as a laxative. And so it clears out their system. And their poops for the first couple of days look like this black tar. It has the same consistency as tar, and it just looks like it. Now, my husband would like me to mention, because he thought this was very important and wished someone had mentioned this before, that the black tar poops have no smell. There's no smell to them whatsoever. Which for him made it a lot better. He was afraid that they were going to be these awful smelly poops, and nope, they're just black, tar-like, and have no smell to them. So because he was doing so well and had so many diapers, they let us go that Saturday. So he was born Friday night at 11:57 p.m., so barely Friday, and Saturday at 4 they let us go. And he continued to do really well with the feeding. At about 10 o'clock though Saturday night, he started to cluster feed and basically wanted to be fed every hour. And then about 1 o'clock, I fed him, and had been feeding him for like an hour, and he was still upset and crying and still wanting to be fed more. And so I got upset, was getting a bit upset because I wasn't able to feed him. So I tried pumping, and I got like a teaspoon of colostrum to come out. While we were doing that though, my husband and I figured out though that food was maybe the problem. While I had been in hospital, all the meals that I had like lots of different options, a bit of fatty foods and lots of protein. And while I had been eating since I'd been home, I hadn't been eating as much or the same types of food. So I went and got myself some food that had lots of protein, some yogurt in that as well for healthy fats, and ate. And then about a half hour later, tried feeding him again, and it went really well. And then we were able to go to bed and get some sleep, which was good. Then my milk started coming in Sunday night. And by Monday morning, I had full milk, and to which point his poops started to change as well, since it was no longer just the colostrum, it was milk. But Monday morning I had a bit of problems getting him to latch on. And I think it was because my boobs had changed. They were kind of soft the day before, and now with all this milk in them, they were hard, and so he was struggling with it. And so all I did, with my husband's suggestion, was I switched to trying the football hold for breastfeeding. And I found that that really worked. He was able to latch right on. And so now anytime I find that we're having some troubles with latching, I switch to the football hold, and that seems to really work. And it tends to be when my boobs either get really full of milk because he's been asleep for a few hours and hasn't fed. If they're really hard, he'll have a hard time. Or if he's been cluster feeding and my boobs are getting pretty soft because he's been feeding constantly, then I also do it then as well. So he started to cluster feed during the day on the Wednesday. And basically he wanted to be fed every hour, and he was only having like 5-minute feeds to before where he'd be having like 10-15-minute feeds. And so that was a little frustrating during the day, but then luckily that night he went back to feeding normally and doing his 10-15-minute feeds. At my pre and postnatal class that we go to on Thursday nights, though, one of the other moms suggested that just using a cool cloth when they're cluster feeding to help wake them back up and to get them just to finish the feed. Basically, as my instructor put, anything that makes them a little uncomfortable and helps wake them back up just to finish the feed. And I found the cool wet cloth to be very helpful. So that's been breastfeeding for the first week. For sleeping, we have him sleeping in a bassinet beside our bed. It's on my side of the bed, so I have easy access to him for feeding throughout the night. When we put him down, we swaddle him, and then the bassinet we have has a vibrating function. It also has a little light on it, which I find very helpful when getting him in and out and trying to breastfeed in the middle of the night and not have to turn on the big light. But once he's done breastfeeding, I swaddle him back up, put him into the bassinet, turn on the vibrating function, and my husband's aunt got us this wonderful little fox. You've probably seen them as little lambs with the white noise, and so it has 4 different white noise. It has like a heartbeat, rain, waves, and then waves with wails, and then it also has 4 different lullabies as well. And so once he's in the bassinet swaddled and the vibrator's on, I just turn on the white noise, have it play for about 23 minutes. It's a 23-minute option and a 45-minute option, and then he's just back out of it. So he's been, for the first week, he was sleeping between 2 to 4 hours at a time, and at night it was generally between the 3 and 4 hours. And so we were really lucky and doing really well, having a really great sleeper. My husband's been able to stay in the bed because it was one of the things we discussed before Thomas came, was the possibility that my husband might have to sleep out on the futon, just because he'll have to go back to work, and he might need to be getting full night's sleeps, and being woken up constantly might be a problem, but that doesn't seem to be an issue. So very thankful with that. So our health nurse visit, she came on the Sunday. So she came around 12 o'clock on the Sunday. And when she came, Richard was just lying on our futon in the living room and had Thomas on his chest, and he was just wearing pajama pants. I had no shirt. So my husband apologized when she walked in for not being dressed, and the health nurse was really sweet and was like, "Oh no, that's great. I love to see that you guys are doing skin to skin. That's fantastic." So she was really impressed that we both seemed to be up and very chipper. I guess in her experience, most moms and parents aren't so chipper when she comes to visit, having been up trying to feed. But overall, she was very happy with how everything was going. He had really good neck control, which he had right from the get-go. When he was born and they put him on me right away, he was instantly lifting and turning his neck. So his neck muscles have been really good. He has good strength of his legs as well. She had to do a couple tests just because we had got discharged so early, and so one of them was she pricked his heel and was had to put the blood onto certain spots on this piece of paper to be tested for later, and he kept kicking and making her miss the spots. He had just really strong legs, so she was impressed with that. When we weighed him, so when he was born, he was 8.18 pounds. And when she weighed him, when she came over on the Sunday, he was 7 pounds, 11 ounces. And then she also checked for jaundice, and it turned out that his levels were really good, which made sense because he was doing really well with the feeding. When she asked about how his diaper output was, she was like, have you had a few dirty diapers since you left the hospital? And I was like, we've had like 10 dirty diapers. So that made her really happy. It meant that, yes, once again, he's feeding really well since he's pooping lots. So what I also want to bring up, it's not related to the health nurse coming, but on the Tuesday morning, so he lost his umbilical cord. So when they're born, they just clamp it, they cut it, and then they clamp it, and they just let it fall off on its own. And so it can take anywhere from like the day of, which is really unheard of, to 15 days after birth for it to fall off. And so on the 4th day, on the Tuesday, his fell off. And so that was nice, because it's a little, as my husband put it, disturbing seeing this thing attached to him that turns black. Anyways, so that was nice, and that fell off on Tuesday. So now onto our temperament. So we have a very easygoing baby. He is really rarely upset. He is very calm. The only time he cries is if there's something wrong, like he's hungry, or if he was getting his diaper changed. He really didn't like getting his diaper changed at the first few days. I think he didn't like the coldness of it. But the moment the dry diaper went on, he would stop crying. The moment you got that the new dry diaper on, he was good to go. And so, as my husband put, he would only cry if there was a problem, and once that problem was solved, he would be done. There would be no more tears. So he's been really good. We've had tons of visitors. We had them at the hospital. We've had them at the house every day since, and he's been really good with seeing all the visitors and very calm. It's been the one comment. Basically 2 comments that we've had with him is, oh my goodness, he has lots of hair, and he's a really calm and chill baby. Because he was so calm and collected, we were able to do just a couple of quick outings just those first couple of days, where we ran and did some errands of things that we realized we didn't have and that we needed. So we did, like, one day we just went to Walmart, and then the next day we went to the dollar store and to the Safeway, to the grocery store, and then those went really well. He basically slept through the entire outing. Got him into the car seat, drove there, walked around all the places, and he slept the entire time. Didn't wake up till we got back, and then just wanted to be fed. So that was really cool. Then on Tuesday, we were able to actually go to a friend's place for a small gathering and see some friends, and that was really nice. It's something that my friend does almost weekly, almost every Tuesday, and so it was really nice to be able to still go out and to see our friends as we normally would. And again, Thomas did really well the entire trip over, and once we were there, he was just looking, he was actually quite awake for quite a bit of it, and was just kind of looking at all the different people around, and yeah, he did really well. And then the only other night was, Thursday night, when we go to our pre/postnatal class, so I guess it's now the postnatal class. And that's when we really realized that we are really blessed with such a chill baby. He was just so chill. We brought a sensory quilt that I had made a few years ago for work, and we put him down on it on his back, and he just laid there. Oh, dreaming. So we brought the sensory quilt that I had made a few years ago for work, and we put him down on it, and he just laid there and was great, and everyone was just like, he is really chill. And so we realized pretty quick that we had to stop talking, because besides a minor cluster feeding during the one day, he was a perfect little angel. Basically, we didn't have any problems putting him down on his back. We haven't had any problems with him sleeping, and so I just felt comparatively that we were quickly becoming those parents who were like, oh, look at our little angel. So it was something where we both walked away, my husband and I, and we're like, we are really, really feeling blessed to have such a content and easygoing child. To which point my mom said that is how all of us, me and my siblings, were when we were babies. We were all pretty easygoing and very content, and so that's very nice. So yes, we're feeling very blessed currently. So postpartum, how have I been doing? So I've been doing pretty good. I've been feeling pretty well. While I was at the hospital for the first bit in the postpartum ward, I felt it was a little difficult, only because I had this IV in me, because I had a bit of bleeding after birth, and I found that difficult trying to like just manage moving around, trying to get Thomas to feed him and burp him and change him, and then trying to go to the washroom, and just having this IV cord to navigate was a little difficult. But they only had it in me for about 6 hours. By about 9 a.m. the nurses checked and made sure that the bleeding seemed to have stopped and it seemed to be all good, so they were able to take it out, which made things much better. I was a little sore from the tearing. I had stage 2 tearing, and so I had to have stitches. And so just took some Advil and some Tylenol, but besides a little bit of soreness, I felt really good overall after birth. All the nurses actually commented just on how well Thomas and I were doing and seemed to be adjusting, which was a really good confidence booster for me, and made me feel really good that we had a handle on what was going on. That first night though, when we got home and Thomas was cluster feeding and I didn't seem to be producing enough, that was so frustrating and made me feel just so inadequate that I couldn't produce enough milk for him. And we hadn't picked up any formula at that point because there wasn't any need to, and everything seemed to be going well, and I was starting to wonder if that was a mistake. And yeah, I kind of panicked, but luckily I had my husband, and he was there, and he calmed me down. We got through it, and we figured out what was wrong and how to remedy that, and so that was good. And we picked up the next day. We went out and we got just those like pre-made formula ones, just in case. Haven't had to use them yet, but we now have them in case things change, in case we have another panic. But besides that, like I said, the health nurse the next day was really impressed with how chipper I still was, and I was feeling great. It wasn't until about Wednesday. Yeah, Wednesday was the first day, and then Friday was the second day when I started to have the baby blues. I remember I just came out, I think I just finished feeding Thomas, and they put him down in our portable bassinet in the living room, and I just crawled onto my husband and started to cry. And he asked me what was wrong, what he could do to help, and I was like, there's nothing. I have no idea why I'm crying, why I'm feeling like all these emotions. I'm feeling sad, but at the same time happy. It was very confusing. But baby blues after the week after pregnancy is very normal. Basically your body has all these hormones that it's going through and trying to get rid of, and it can be part of the recovery system. So we are keeping an eye on it just in case it does in the next few weeks turn into postpartum, but I've been feeling pretty good besides those couple moments, so it's been really well. So thank you so much for joining me for my week 1 review, and we will have up very soon the week 2 review.